Welcome back, viewers. Mike here. This is part 2 of the pallet fork attachment series. So we're just beginning to work on the frame, and the first thing we have to do is to establish the dimension for these two stringer angle irons that hold the forks. If you've ever looked at these pallet forks, the two little retention hooks look to be forgings, and they're just welded on. And there's round corners and as well as the stringers that they hook onto are have rounded tops. So the best way to do this is to actually take the forks and use those as a jig and put the stringers in place and get a measurement that way. So that's what we've done here. And I'm pretty happy with the dimension that I've got here. And I've noted it, and when we weld these stringers into the actual frame, that's the dimension that we'll hit. And we'll verify this dimension a couple more times probably before we actually weld these stringers solid into the frame, because this is critical to the extent that they have to be tight enough to retain the forks, but loose enough to where you can slide the forks up and down the rails. And two of these angle irons will become the sides, and the other one will become the very top of the frame. So first we'll put it on the floor in their relative positions. I've carefully laid out some chalk lines on the floor and laid these angle irons on top of them. And I have the two side plates put in place, and I'm starting to do the layout. So we've got the side plates laid out as carefully as I can, and now we're using the bandsaw to make the vertical cuts. Here's one of the side plates complete and slid into place just to see how it fits. And this one is just laid out. What I did was use my bandsaw for the vertical cuts, and then I went ahead and used my plasma cutter for everything else. Here's the nest boxes resting in place. When we add them, we will lean the top forward at about a 10-degree angle. And now I'll slide everything together and begin tack welding. This would be a lot more comfortable to work on if I had it up on my welding table, but I work alone and it's starting to get heavy now that I'm assembling it. And I have a lot more fitting to do, and it's just a lot easier to jostle it around and tilt it and so forth on the floor. And now that I got the basic tacks on, I'm just going to do some more measuring, make sure we got this just where we want it. You'll notice here that I haven't welded in that center angle iron, which is the hanger for the forks, because we have to work out the spacing and cut the notches in for the pin locks that keeps the forks from sliding back and forth. And I've decided to make the notches 5 inches on center. And here we have it put up on the mill, and we'll just plunge mill these notches out. And I have a 2x4 on the movable jaw side of my vise to equalize the pressure against this rough piece of angle iron. And now the hanger rail is set in place complete with notches. If you don't happen to have a milling machine, this can be done in a lot of different ways. You can drill holes and then cut the sides out with a torch or plasma cutter, or even a cutoff wheel with a hand grinder. And now this frame is ready to weld up solid, but first I've taken my 4.5-inch grinder and I've V'd out all the joints that I'm going to weld, because the forks ride against this front surface, so I can't have any welds projected above the face. So I wanted to make sure that the welds were in there good and deep. No plumber's crack here. I'm just going around and adding a few more tack welds on this top surface, and then I'll go ahead and weld it out. Next, we'll go ahead and fit the nest boxes on, and that'll be on the next video. That'll be part 3. So till then, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you then.